Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
It's hard to have the earphones on and the Gora and the hat.
Good morning.
I just went for ears.
Looking good, Robin, with the hat.
You haven't met Rudolph yet.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, wow.
So you're all
Well,
set.
cheeks.
How is everybody? Don't
Yeah,
forget.
very good, thank you.
Yes, good, thank you.
We are waiting the new Irish guideline and probably on lockdown again since starting soon. Today, apparently, they are announcing the new restriction.
Mm.
So
No, we
the
in
few
Bristol here, we had
the few reservation that we have for the 31st, I think that we will all have to cancel it. So good luck with that.
Here in
Morning,
Bristol,
everybody.
it took us down from tier 3 to tier 2. So at least we can go out to restaurants at the moment. I don't know how long it'll last before they decide to lock us all down again.
You definitely can't leave the island now.
No, they've locked us
No.
out. Taste of things to come, I think, with the supply, with the lorries, but we'll see.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Jan. How are you?
Morning.
Good, thank you.
Nice to see you with your hat on and
I know.
looking glittery.
Sparkly for Christmas. With a back that keeps going into spasm.
Oh,
I
ginger.
know.
Great
Pardon?
ginger and squeeze out the juice, rub it on it. It does wonders.
Really?
Yeah.
I've had 3 days lying flat with my PC on my on my knees, but oh god. So much to do as well, eh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You say it's good to have something to do even when it's holidays.
Yeah.
in these current climates.
I don't know.
Barry, where's your hat? You're on mute.
Morning, Robin. I'll go out of 2020 the way I came in on mute.
I'm going to do a video, I think, about the top 7 20 You're on mute. Oh, I forgot my mask.
Yeah.
There's
Definitely.
actually a song out, isn't there, at the moment with something like that?
Is there?
I saw something the other day. Yeah.
Well, wait a couple of seconds for the last.
Hi, good morning, Robin.
Morning, everybody.
Michael Simpson, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Yes, I'm all right. I'm all right. Long time.
It has been a while, yeah.
I didn't have a beer last time I've seen you. I don't think. No, I
I
didn't.
don't think I've seen you for about 18 months, Stefan. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Hey, look, we almost have the same jumper, right?
Yeah.
Nigel's
He's a
giving us
singer.
a bit of background music here.
Yeah.
Sorry?
You're giving us a bit of background music too.
Shit, I'm not on mute, am I? I'm just enjoying myself, boys. You know what I mean? I'm just enjoying myself, you know? Just
Are we all going to turn around, or is that?
sorry, just listening. Merry Christmas,
We all
everyone.
feel as if we're on hold, Nigel. We
Oh,
all
sorry,
feel
sorry.
as if we're on hold.
I'll put myself on mute just so you don't have to listen to it, yeah.
We'll do a carol later on, you know.
Absolutely. Join in when you can, yeah? You know?
Right then. Good day, everybody. It's 10 o'clock. Let's get it started and see where we go. Is anybody aware of what's happening, how the effect of the borders? I mean, Andy, you're the guy on the supply chain. Do you, is it really affecting anybody at the moment, or is it already shut kind of?
Well, we've had warning notifications through from some of our suppliers saying that suppliers are likely to get low. But the problem is, it looks like we've got a large chunk of England gone into a full lockdown. We've got Scotland going into a full lockdown from Boxing Day, so the demand's going to be extremely low anyway. And let's just hope that the French allow things to ease a bit now. That's just the way things are looking. But I think the supermarkets are more worried than the hospitality sector at the moment, because there's very, very low demand in the hospitality sector.
Oh well. So yes, it's going to be interesting. I've heard them talking about having to test all the drivers before they can go across on the ferry or whatever.
Well, it can't be that difficult. They're already in a queue, aren't they?
Yeah.
They just line them up and go down and give them a swab test down each. It's really not that difficult to organise, is it?
9,000 lorries though at any one time, I think. So bare feet.
Just get someone on one of those mobile cherry pickers, just going along at just the right height as the cab, and they can be doing them all.
And then seal them in so nobody else can get into the van until they get on board.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be that difficult. And then the other way, they just need to send someone down with a mobile food truck, someone in hospitality that's not got anything to do at the moment, mobile food truck, and feed the poor buggers down there. I feel desperately sorry for those guys stuck on the M20.
But long term, why does the tractor unit have to go over with the trailer? We drive it to Dover, it's loaded on the ferry, goes the other side, the French or whoever pick it up the other side.
I think that's the way it will go once the Brexit kicks in. I think that's going to be the way it's going to happen.
BP, she's just there. I think she wants to go in the garden.
It's what they do to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah. I think that's probably what will happen, because according to what they say, there isn't enough licenses for our drivers to be able to drive over there. So they'll probably have to do just that, either use containers or just drop the trailer in Dover on the ferry, and then some French hauler will pick it up on the other side, I suppose, or Belgium.
Yeah.
So, interesting times. But yeah.
That's one way of summing up 2020, really, isn't it? Interesting times.
I'd hopefully like to say that I'm sure 2021 can't be as bad. Touch wood.
I just quite like 2020 to be that scene from Dallas from years ago when Bobby Ewing suddenly comes out of it in a shower, isn't it? And he's not actually being killed. Or suddenly 2020 didn't happen and we can all start again.
The one acid test will be, if it's still running, this time next year. when we can look back and evaluate. 2020 was actually a belter of a year compared to 2021.
Oh, God, Julia.
At least we can all put it in our business plans this
Yes,
year.
on that note, moving on.
On that note, moving on. Michael, let's have your presentation. Welcome to on we go.
No probs. Right.
Check.
We'll
Just let me check. Yeah, you should be able to share.
If I can, yeah, I can. Yeah, just get up now. 2 seconds. Okay, right. It's just connecting now, guys. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so I won't keep you too long because I think a lot of you are probably using social media anyway, but it's whether people are using it for everything you possibly can use it for, really. So I'll go through the basics of what you can do with it. Sorry, just down. Right, so just a little bit of information about us. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead there. We're Unique Aspirations. We're a hospitality support company. We set up in June this year, not as a result of the COVID pandemic, but it seems to have come about that that's what we've been quite popular helping people with. We offer support for revenue management, sales generation, reputation management, social media as well, recruitment and consultancy. Just going through what I'll cover today. So I'm going to briefly go through how to optimize your page, make sure you're making the most out of what you've got, how you can use social media for reputation management, which I think a lot of people do to a point, but it's whether you're staying on top of it. Recruitment, and I think a lot of people certainly use Facebook for recruitment, but people looking at other aspects as well that you can use social media for recruitment. And then of course the marketing angle, which I think a lot of people do dip in and out of, but probably don't have necessarily a long-term strategy for. So pros and cons for social media. So the pros, the key pros, obviously it increases business traffic to your social pages and your website, which can improve your SEO. It will increase your business levels as well when you market it correctly and you market to the correct audience. It increases your presence in the local area and awareness of your business. So certainly people looking at local businesses, if you've got a restaurant or if you've got a hotel that you're trying to attract local people through the door, it certainly will help your F&B offering once you can trade, if you can trade. And reasonably affordable or free marketing tool as well, if it's used correctly again. The cons can be, it's quite time consuming. It can be quite difficult to manage and stay on top of. Certainly if you get a lot of reviews and responses coming through social media, you need to make sure that that's being managed on a daily and sometimes an hourly basis, depending on how big your site is. Managing negativity as well. If you get negativity on social media, it can be very difficult to control. We've all seen that share button or retweet, and we see things getting moved quite easily through the social media spectrum. And that can be quite difficult to stay on top of. So it's about managing that negativity when it comes on. Ensuring the right posts go out at the right time to the right audience can be tricky if you haven't got that resource or personnel there to do it for you. And also making sure you don't flood your audience with posts, as you will lose followers and you'll lose impacts. Sites that overpost or put a couple of posts out a day, people get fed up with them and they stop following them. So optimize your social presence. So even if you don't plan to use your social media straight away, reserve your channels. So a lot of people, for example, don't use YouTube, but it's still an idea to reserve that channel so you've got the name ready to go, so that then you've got some parity across the names on your social channels, which makes it look a bit more professional. Optimize your cover images and your profile images and all your channels. Make sure they're eye-catching and impactful, and review them at least quarterly and change them. And stay on top of that on a regular basis. Create your URLs for your Facebook page. So I don't know if any of you know, but you can actually go into your Facebook business page and you can actually make a short URL for that to make it easier to have if you then attach it to things. So it's not a long number of letters and numbers all strung together at the end of your URL. And create a call to action on core sites like Facebook and Instagram, because if you've got a call to action, which is a click button, people will easily see links through to your site or wherever you want to direct them. And optimize your business description and profile names for a better SEO performance as well. My screen's taking time to go down. Okay, we've gone forward 3. So, sorry, I'm going back. Apologies, my laptop is playing up a tad. Right, so reputation management. So, be aware of your reputation socially. So this is quite a difficult one to manage reputation online, as I say, because you have to keep on top of any negativity that may go out there. So choose your words carefully when you're dealing with responses. Avoid controversy, inflammatory language, or being too casual. Remember, anyone can see your responses. Respond to reviews in a timely manner. I think that's crucial. So some sites like Facebook will actively show when a business is less or unlikely to respond. They sometimes have on the Facebook page, you'll see on the front page, business likely to respond, business slow at responding, expect a response within 2 to 3 days, etc. This therefore reflects badly on your business reputation. If you're delegating, make sure that is the right person and you have the parameters set. Don't be generic. So it's the worst thing to reply, thanks to your feedback, to every response that you get. Make sure that you're personalizing it to what that customer's feedback is. Take your negativity and resolutions offline. And where a customer is angry about their experience, ensure it is handled through private messaging, email, or direct contact where possible. Source solutions outside of a public forum. And share your feedback. Make sure your followers know your business is great. So when you've done well, make sure that that's shared on your channels. And even if you haven't got it 100% right, share those experiences as long as you've managed to correct it, because it does show that you're genuine and open and you're quite happy to demonstrate when your business has gone wrong and you've got it right in the way you've corrected it. My apologies, it is going incredibly slowly this side. Okay, so we'll go back there. Right, so recruitment. So free campaigns. So there's 4 key ways you can help with recruitment through social media. Facebook, you can post directly on your company's page, and that's free. That's the most common one that a lot of us use. You can also use scheduled posts. So a lot of the time when you're trying to attract the right candidates, it won't be during your working hours. So you can schedule a post to go out on any of the 4 major channels, and that can go out at a later time of the day. With a direct link to your own recruitment page or portal to try and reduce some of your recruitment costs if you've got, if you're looking to avoid using agencies or things like that. Also use your short-term story. So there is certainly on, well, all the channels now have a short-term story thing along the top where you can just click on and see some short links, and you can put a picture of the jobs or a description of the job that you're looking for with a background picture with a click through again to your direct recruitment page or portal. And paid campaigns as well. If you use LinkedIn, they're often quite good for the senior role. So if you've got a GM's role or a head chef role you're looking for, very good to try and fill those through LinkedIn. Their paid campaigns have proved to be quite successful in the past. Oh, sorry, points to, oh right, so we're going on, sorry, I'll come back a bit. Right, so points to note, social media can be a great way to fill your roles without the need to pay for recruitment services, particularly for entry levels and supervisory roles. Use hashtags on site to help your advert get seen further afield. So hashtags work across all networks now. It was originally just a Twitter thing, but it has been advanced. So hashtags will help you get it out beyond your follower base. When posting jobs, always analyze the results, and you can have a look at analytics, and we'll come on to analytics in a minute, for each role, and see what works best. And ensure that when collecting applications, particularly through social sites, that only people who are authorized to have access to this do, because personal details will need to be remain restricted. And that's something that I think everyone needs to keep an eye on when they're looking at social media, is make sure that you incorporate this into your own data protection policies and GDPR policies. Most social networks are data compliant. However, you need to make sure that you are aware of where that data is being stored and where that's being shared on your servers, on their servers, so that you don't have any issues with regards to data protection later on. So marketing, so social media sort of splits into 4 key areas. So social networking being one, microblogging, photo sharing, and video sharing. So the key ones for social networking are Facebook and LinkedIn, which I think we all probably use on a regular basis. Microblogging is the one that is not so commonly used in hospitality. So it's where you are doing small posts quite regularly to try and get the attention of social media users. Photo sharing, again, very visual, and quite a lot of sites have moved across to using Instagram for marketing. Snapchat and Pinterest, not so much for our industry, although Pinterest is getting used more and more, particularly for food images and when a hotel's had a refurbishment. And also video sharing, which is YouTube, Vimeo. TikTok is not one that we tend to use as well in an industry. It's not one we really focus on, but YouTube particularly and Vimeo are 2 key ones that we use in the industry. So let's look at the age demographics. Let's be on the slide. There we are. So age demographic of social media users. To give you an idea, this is based on the percentage of social media users and the channels that they use. So you can see from briefly looking at the chart that your age range predominantly is your younger ages, and as you get older, it gradually cascades downwards. Certainly your older generation aren't really using much other than Facebook or YouTube, but your younger generation, of course, are using Instagram, they're using Twitter, they're using LinkedIn. Particularly when you look at business networking, LinkedIn, you can see where it spikes sort of in the 25 to 30s, and sort of the post-millennial age as well. Okay, so going through the 4 networks, or the main networks. So social networking, so Facebook, obviously being the main social networking site, the core age range using Facebook is 25 to 49. They are mainly used for social networking, live streaming. You could get a good direct to customer and direct to business base of marketing on there. Low cost strategy as well, because you don't necessarily have to put a lot of money into Facebook to get a good result. Ability to communicate with the guest directly in a public or private forum. You can interface with Instagram as well through Facebook for Business, which is another one of their businesses. Great target marketing system to promote page or links to website. Easy to attract followers with promotional activity, and interfaces with direct booking engines to reduce commissions through OTAs. And you can promote deals and offers direct on your page, and that doesn't cost you anything unless you want to pay for a paid campaign. The worst bits is you probably regularly have to check that, manage it, and it will identify you to users if you're not a regular responder to comments and reviews. So you really do need to stay on top of that channel. Okay, next one. Instagram, again owned by Facebook. Slightly younger age range, 18 to 30 is their core age bracket. Again, mainly business to customer marketing, photo generated marketing, so imagery sells. Quite a lot of hotels, particularly if you've got a really attractive product, regularly posting images of their business. But if your product's not as photogenic, then look at food images and things like that, things that will potentially be attractive to a customer. Ability to communicate with the customer directly, again in a public or private forum. Integrates with Facebook, as we've said. You can have sponsored ads as well to reach a targeted audience. You then also have the ability to promote deals or offers direct on your page and have links to your site. Make your stories creative, so you can use Unfold and several other apps that can interface with it, which will give you an ability to make a creative story that's not just the bog standard story post. So there's other apps that you can use to really get that attention of those followers or people that you're trying to attract. A relatively young user audience, so if that's not the market you're trying to attract, then Instagram might not be the channel for you. Okay, Twitter, if I can get on it. Twitter. So again, 18 to 30s market. It's a micro blogging site, direct two-way communication with you and the customer or client. It's a good platform if you want to start a conversation about something or join in a conversation about something. And we've seen a lot more hospitality venues taking to Twitter over the last few months with regards to the government's reaction to the COVID crisis, and a lot of interaction I've seen online with UK Hospitality and the Institute of Hospitality. So there's a lot more people engaging with Twitter now in our industry, not necessarily to promote their product, but certainly to engage with an audience and get themselves noticed and support the industry on a platform. So become part of a community, join pages that are relevant to your business, and comment and engage in your business page. Easy to promote with links to your website, blog stories, offers and promotions. Reach a large number of people through tweets and retweets. It can easily expand your follower base and generate new clients. So when you tweet something, it can easily get moved on quite quickly. Okay, and restrictive 280 character limit. If you get negative feedback, it can be retweeted around very quickly. And Twitter Live really does deliver low results. It's not been the best performing products, and Twitter announced last week that they're actually going to end Twitter Live in March 2021. The previous product was called Periscope, which they merged with Twitter only recently, and then they've now decided that that's now going to go as well. Okay, LinkedIn, a slightly older age bracket there, 25 to 49, social networking, live streaming, wide reach of people, predominantly business to or business to the client direct, and also business to business, and then again regularly, so more business to business than business to client direct. Regular posting and interacting with everyone can help your reputation, and become part of a community. With LinkedIn, a lot of people regularly interact with each other on a daily basis. And that's quite good. It's an upcoming community which more and more people join, and then you could be part of a community with people that you won't necessarily ever meet or know, which is quite good. And mainly a business to business marketing tool, as I say, not commonly used for going direct to your customer base. Okay, done one. Oh. YouTube, 18 to 49, high volumes of users. People are able to subscribe to YouTube channels and follow content. You can plan your videos in advance, which you have to really, and make sure they're professionally produced, because if you don't produce these videos professionally, it will shine badly on your business. Create links from your own websites to other social platforms to ensure the channel and video views continue to grow. The worst bits is video production and editing can be costly to produce, time consuming on resource. Getting subscribers can be difficult for businesses as it is heavily used as a leisure platform. So if you're attracting that leisure market, then it might well work. Okay, so it's important to have a social content calendar. So know what you're aiming to go for. So ensure that you include your days and dates and times that you want to be posting. Your types of media, your specific channels, your objectives, your key phrases, and any budgets and specifications for a paid campaign. And share this content with your social media colleagues and assign responsibilities by color coding things and just keeping on top of that, because it's not a one-person job, social media, and you could have someone employed purely to do that. But if you really want to make the most out of it, you can really take that on to a new level if you've got multiple people involved in it. So creating the best posts. So tap into what people are thinking. So who are you trying to attract? Are you approaching a leisure period? Is Christmas in full swing? Is that what you're trying to get last minute festive business? Obviously not this year for most people. Is it close to the end of the month and payday? So are you going to try and attract people coming through the door, maybe for meals, maybe for weekend breaks? Is there a local event being announced? Or are you going to try and attract the local community? Or are you going to try and work with them? Ask questions. So that's quite crucial, to ask questions. So it's a good way to get the user to read and engage. If you're asking a question, it's getting to think about the post, thinking about your company. And show behind the scenes, that's quite a common one. Not everyone does it, but showing behind the scenes is something a lot of people wonder. So a lot of people sit in a restaurant and think, oh, I wonder what's going on in that kitchen and how this operation works. So it's good to show a few behind the scenes posts. And if people see a clean kitchen and chefs at work in clean uniforms, it gives them a bit of confidence in the product as well. And target your posts. So Facebook for Business lets you target your post by location and interest. And we'll come on to that in a bit. And it can be done as part of a cost control campaign. And as I've said previously, use hashtags where you can, use as much imagery as you can, use quotes where you can, because quotes can sometimes entice a conversation. Use testimonials when people have said your businesses are good. And of course, include a call to action. Target marketing. Right, so target marketing. So your key campaign may need more than just a free advert. So it's important that when you do your marketing campaigns, and a lot of people have made this mistake in the past, is you don't just do a blanket marketing campaign to your local area. Really target who you are trying to get through the door, because it might not be your local area that you're targeting. So getting business through, it's crucial to get it right. So as you can see from this, you can target on location, demographic, interests, and work or industry on most of the channels. So particularly Facebook for Business, they're very good at giving you a lot of demographic to target from. And you can really drill down into the people you want to target. And the locations as well. You can be very specific. If you wanted to get business in from Bristol, say, or you wanted to attract people in a certain industry to your hotel or to your venue, you could do that. Or if you wanted to attract a certain age range. So it's very, very good the way they do it on there, and you can be really targeting. Okay, so social media management tools, which automators. Now this can save you some time and some hassle, and a lot of people do opt to have social media automators and automation tools in place. So I'm sure some people have heard of Hootsuite, and some people may even use Hootsuite, but they allow you to really schedule in line with your social content calendar. They often have an online version of social content calendars. They give you some post templates. You can pre-design them in advance, put timed campaigns out on them. It can go across multiple channels. It will give you suggestions of keywords and hashtags, and keyword alarms of things that are triggering people coming to your page. And also it will give you the analytics tools that you need to be able to say, yes, that campaign's been successful. I've achieved what I wanted out of that, or no, it hasn't. We need to do something different next time. So the analytics are really crucial, and all of them will give you some level of analytics. And again, I go back to Facebook for Business because they're well known for their analytics. They're very good, but the vast majority of them will give you some analytics on what you can get back from what you've done, whether that's a recruitment campaign, whether that's a marketing campaign. You can really drill down and see whether you've hit the people that you wanted to hit. So you can see your page views. So how many people have actually viewed your page? How many people have seen your page preview? Now that's where they hover over your page to see the description of your page. You can see page likes, you can see your post reach. So your post reach is how far out that reach has gone and who's coming back from it. You can see your story reach as well. So again, how many people have seen that story? Has it hit the number of people you wanted to? Recommendations, so how many people have recommended your site or your page or your post. Post engagement, so that's looking at how many people have engaged with that post and clicked through. And then page likes, so how many page likes you've generated, whether that's from that post or whether that's generally over a certain period of time. And also responsiveness to it as well, which is very important to look at the responsiveness of that post. And of course, your orders and earnings. So if you're attaching things that will link to a shopping system or a booking system, you can see how many orders or earnings you've got from that as well. So it all depends on what you've got interfaced with your systems. Okay. Oh. Okay. Any questions, guys, on that? I can go into a lot more detail, and apologies for the issues with the presentation. My computer has gone nuts this morning.
Anybody got any questions for Stephen?
I've got a question. Hi, Stephen.
Michael.
It's Susan here, Susan Arslan. Good morning.
Morning.
Are there any tricks of the trade for getting followers on these different sites?
Yes. Well, I think the key thing is it depends what you're trying to target. So it does differ on what you're trying to target. So if you're trying to get followers for a meal or something like that, it's about timing. So timing it around the right times you want to get people through the door, making sure that you're doing a campaign directed at those people you're trying to attract. So if you're trying to attract people in their 18 to 30s to come in for dinner, or people later than that, maybe you're trying to get an older generation. You can, as I say, it all depends on exactly what you want to target, but to get those followers through, you can actually do targeted campaigns just to get followers, just to get page likes. So you can go onto Facebook for Business and have a campaign just to get your page likes. It doesn't have to be getting people through to your website. It doesn't have to be bookings. It can be online to do it. The other thing as well is use your hashtags. So if you use your hashtags as much as possible for things that are related to your business, it will therefore naturally go across to other people's feed, people who are interested in that sort of industry or that sort of thing, and they will then like that as well, and then you'll gain more followers.
Brilliant, thank you.
Michael, when in previous jobs working with commercials, it was the email that was always the popular thing.
Yeah.
And they always used to have a policy. Yes, if you want an email to be opened, you've got to send it at this time of a day on this day of a week. Is there some kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can get those analytics again, and I'll go back to Facebook for Business because they're the ones with the best analytic tools, really. But they have an ability, so you can see your followers. They have an ability, so you can drill down and see an average time that your followers are online. So you can see, right, my followers log on to Facebook between 6 and 8 p.m. So that's when you want to target them, because you know that's when it's going to appear on the feed. You can do it earlier times of the day, and depending on what you pay for your campaign, you can have it where it will appear on their screen no matter when you do it. And other costs as well. If you go for a lower cost, it will only appear maybe once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it really is ideal to do it. The best time really is to do it by going through your analytics and analyzing exactly when you want to target those people.
Okay.
Michael, Francesco here. Just a quick question regarding TikTok. Now, I know that it's a kind of new platform, especially in Europe and the US, well, has been banned.
Yeah.
But do you think that do you see any potential for hospitality business for TikTok? Because the video apparently is one that is getting more popular. And I kind of think that you would be very good and easy as well to use for hotel. It's just me, or?
I think you're right, but again, you've got to get the right post and the right content to reach that TikTok market. Now, TikTok videos are normally quite interactive. You don't normally just get someone standing there blanketly talking at a video camera. There's normally quite a lot of engagement and people dancing around or things like that, and that's what attracts the TikTok audience. So if that's the way you want to get the customers in, if you're trying to attract that customer base, then yes, you could do that. The other way you can do it is Instagram Reels, which is similar to TikTok, and I think Facebook.
It's actually being copied, basically. Reels has copied with real TikTok, as far as I know.
Yeah, exactly, and we've seen that Facebook has already sort of taken out Snapchat by doing that with Instagram as well, by taking the story feeds away. So I think Facebook's attack on TikTok is their way of trying to get people doing that. So it means you could still do it all on one platform. If you wanted to have a separate platform and do it on TikTok, you could. I think TikTok for Business is still in very early stages. I don't think really.
But I think that the platform itself would actually push a lot. I mean, I have my TikTok because I was studying it. And the numbers, even though my followers are very little, but the view of the video, it's astonishing compared to Twitter or Instagram.
Crazy
That is
numbers,
my
yeah.
impression.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and they've got incredible viewers, and it's very, very popular. But again, it's a very young age demographic as well. So if you're trying to get younger people through the door, that's great. It's a great tool. And again, you just need the time to make those creative posts that will work and will get out there. And video posts, TikTok's one of those you could get away with doing on an iPhone probably. But when you're doing sort of videos that you want to put on YouTube or something like that, you've got to put a bit more professional edge to it. So with TikTok, yeah, if you think that's the market you want to attract, then it absolutely could work, yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, Michael, just a question about the recent announcement from Apple and targeting of apps. That they will basically remove the targeting for local businesses. Have you seen any movement there, or is there any new results? Because I've got actually one info on it that they seen suddenly results of ads dropped.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all early stages, isn't it? Because it was iOS 14.3 that's fully come into effect. Facebook are taking Apple legally with regards to it. As yet, there's no figures, but there is a lot of industry rumor and murmur saying, yes, there has been a drop. But again, it's for the Apple user, it's their personal choice to have whether they say yes or no to that. It's not Apple forcing them into it as such. They can opt out of that if they want. But yes, it will affect small businesses if people do opt to not have targeting ads coming their way. And it'd be interesting to see, I think, over the coming weeks and months who wins that, with Facebook and Apple are quite heavily going off against each other at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see how that ends up.
Anybody else? Any questions?
If we get
Okay.
Robin, you send out the full presentation. My apologies, there was a few technical issues this end, but there is a lot of detail on the presentation. If anyone wants to get in touch with me separately about it, we're quite happy to talk through and go through some questions and queries as well.
Yeah, as usual, I'll send out the presentation. I'll send out your email address so anybody can get in touch with you directly. And we can move on to Sarah, who will be talking to us about accessibility.
Hello.
Hello, Sarah.
Right, let me just share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Am I in slide mode or am I just in?
Just at the moment, it's just in edit mode.
Are we okay now?
Yes.
Right, lovely. Is that going to let me right? Lovely. Thank you all for having me to have a chat with you. I'm a building surveyor, but I'm also an access consultant. And one of my passions is creating accessible and inclusive environments for everybody. It's quite a lot of my surveying work I've been done recently has took me to hospitality venues since I've started up self-employed, and it's quite remarkable how many venues you see that don't cater at all for people with disabilities or any range of impairments. So it's one of my huge passions. So I've sort of took it upon myself to come along to lots of these events and talk to people about how we can make improvements. But this isn't just about me. Obviously, there's legislation and guidance that drive this. So I think it's really important that people understand that there is an obligation for your businesses to be accessible to people with disabilities. Why I'm passionate about it, I say just a little bit about me. I'm a qualified building surveyor. I used to work in building design as well. Started out in architectural technology. And lots of my surveying roles have seen me work with organisations that have care homes with adults with disabilities. I've just done 6 years with MenCap, designing and refurbishing premises for adults with learning disabilities and also a range of other disabilities. Back in the day, many moons ago, I used to manage a disabled facilities grant programme for a local authority. I've worked with schools doing adaptations for children with disabilities, and I think inadvertently throughout my career, I just seem to have ended up working in organisations where I'm helping people, and it's become a passion. So when I set up my business, my husband said, right, you need a USP as well as being a building surveyor, because there's lots of those. So the Access Consultancy was born and has become a passion. So aside from me, I sort of like to look at what drives accessibility in society. I like to think we all have a desire to ensure that everybody can enjoy all our facilities and services in the same way, and that nobody's marginalised and discriminated against because they have a physical or mental disability. I think generally with new buildings, particularly, the government is very much on board with this. Planning policy and strategies are really starting to look at the needs of disabled people. Lots of local authorities as well, they're planning. I say there's often a condition with planning permissions that there's an element of accessibility, whether it's with new hotels, new gyms, new housing developments. There's a real push centrally to have a focus on creating inclusive environments. And I think within society, there's a changing attitude. We talk about the medical model. So that's based on the principle that the disability is caused by the way we're organised. So it's not the impairment or the disability that hampers the person. It's the barriers that are in their way that hampers what that person can do. And I think, this is a bigger problem than people realise. There's 13.9 million people, probably more now, reported with a disability in the UK. And all those people are in society wanting to access our services and facilities. And as much as I say, for me, it's a passion. I think, why shouldn't everybody have the full experience and live their best life? But on the very cold, hard front of it, if you're running a business, if you're accessible to everyone, it will increase your turnover. It will also reduce the risk of negative publicity. So as much as, yes, it's a lovely, cozy, warm feeling when you're helping everybody, there's a cold, hard business fact behind why we would want to be more inclusive as well. So legislatively, the Equality Act 2010, which came into force in October 2010, it joined together what was previously, a lot of people talk about the DDA, which was the Disabled Discrimination Act. It's linked together lots of very clumsy legislation. There's now 9 protected characteristics within that legislation. They're on their age, disability, gender identity now has come into it, religion. The overriding thing within the legislation is that nobody should be discriminated against. We need to make reasonable adjustments to ensure that everybody no one's discriminated against. That's the principle. And the Act, particularly for you guys, whether it's in hospitality, hotels, restaurants, if you're providing a service, then the Act applies to you. And a lot of people think this is education or this is social landlords. This is anybody that provides a service, hotels, theatres, recreation locations. So there is an obligation under this Act to ensure that these 13.9 million people with disabilities or protected characteristics don't feel discriminated against because of the way you deliver a service or because of something within your premises or how they feel they've been treated. So it really is. I mean, for me as a designer, there's lots of other things as well. There's the building regulations, there's planning, there's British standards. But for you guys with existing premises, it's more the Equalities Act that we need to focus on. And I say this provides a legal framework to protect the rights of individuals. And there are repercussions to this. It's very easy to sail along thinking, well, I've actually spoke to people that have said to me over the years, yeah, but no one's complained, so it doesn't matter, does it? And that makes me sad, because I think, no, there is a real obligation for us to make an effort. So when we talk about a disability, I think if you think of a disability, I can guarantee everybody thinks of a wheelchair and a ramp. And they think, oh, we've got a ramp and we've got wide doors, tick. And I think there's just so much more to this now. A disabled person could have a physical disability, a mental impairment, a cognitive impairment, and it's anything that sort of long-term adversely affects the way they live their day-to-day life and the way they carry out activities. It's more than minor and trivial. It's very prescriptive in the Act. It's laid out exactly in what we mean by disability. And having thought of your ramp and your wheelchair, actually only 8% of people that are registered as disabled have a wheelchair. So this is, much more. I have this umbrella of there's all these things, people with hearing impairments, communication impairments, people with autism, learning disabilities. All these conditions can massively affect the way people appreciate and enjoy and interact with an environment. Dexterity, really silly things when I've done designing in a previous position for toilets, and people not wanting that push button on the back wall, because if you can't use your hand very well, you can't push it, you can't flush the toilet. And really silly things that we don't think about, but there's really easy changes that we can make to really help people with a range of very, very different conditions. And to a degree, without even being registered with a disability or feeling that we have a disability, we all have our own quirks and levels of ability. And the one thing we say is that lots of these improvements you can make within your businesses, specifically for people with a disability, will have a massive positive impact on everybody as well. So that's a really positive thing. So talking about the Act and disability and what are they, how does this affect you in hospitality? And I think this slide for me is really important. We have what we call the purple pound, and this is looking at the cold hard facts of if you're not accessible and people with disabilities can't access your business, what does this mean for you? And the purple pound is the spending power of disabled people and their families. And I find some of these facts quite sad. 75% of disabled people in the survey have walked away from a business because of poor accessibility or poor customer services relating to their disability. 1 in 5 potential customers have a disability. We currently, the biggest fact here, the spending power of disabled people and their households is increasing, but it's estimated to be £249 billion per year in the UK. And if you're not, the loss of money per business per month, when you look at restaurants and pubs and clubs in the UK, could be up to 163 million, because those businesses can't accept people with a disability. So therefore they're losing that business. So I find that these statistics are really quite shocking, and there's lots we can do to improve our businesses. And it's really important for you guys to offer a good service to everybody. I was looking last night, and the Chief Executive Officer of Business Disability Forum has made a statement: receiving good customer service is important to everybody, but it's particularly important to people with disabilities because they can have quite specific needs, and a lot of them are quite concerned about approaching a business. So it's not just physical changes we're talking about within your business, it's also making staff aware. So if you've done something fabulous within your hotel that makes it inclusive, tell your staff about it. Because if they don't know it's there, or if they don't know that there's a particular way something's done, it's really important that staff are trained so that when someone with a disability comes to your business, they're met in a way that makes them feel appreciated and understood. There are hotels now, more and more hotels offering standard disabled rooms, but they don't necessarily meet the needs of people with more complex conditions. So it's also just about thinking all sorts of innovative technology for people with hearing impairments. And I think the biggest thing when I say with offering good service, being accessible absolutely does not mean that style has to be diminished. I've been in some fantastic establishments that are very inclusive and very accessible, but they're also very beautiful. And an accessible room does not mean the old Doc M pack from the building regs of your white toilet with a blue handrail and goodness knows what. You can have an absolutely beautiful spaces that are accessible. And as I've sort of discussed before, the measures you've put in place to improve the services you offer can have a positive effect for all of your customers as well. And people with disabilities should experience the facilities you offer in the same way as everybody else, not in a lesser way. Or it's often, you'll find there's a lovely, beautiful main entrance to hotels with big steps up the front, and there'll be a little sign with a wheelchair and an arrow, and someone with a disability will have to go around to the service entrance to get in or to get to the main foyer. And there's lots of things where people sort of, you know, you think, oh, well, it looks amazing and we don't want to do anything to hamper that, so we'll ask them just to go around the back. And experiencing your service or facility in a lesser way should be an exception and not the rule. Initiatives and competition. I think now it's really important. There's so much emphasis on this. I mean, Visit England have the National Accessible Scheme, and all these things are a real positive for you in the hospitality business, because it's another way to market your business. And moving on from what the gentleman said previously as well, there's lots of Facebook pages that relate to where can I stay with a disability. It's another avenue for you to push something really positive that you do and to market your business in a different way. So the National Accessible Scheme, if you get yourself on that and you're assessed by Visit England as being an accessible and inclusive environment, that's another massive tick for your business. They will advertise your business on their website. You can promote that you meet that recommendation. Airbnb, I noticed there's a recent Accomable. It's a site dedicated to people with disabilities, and it features thousands of properties from all around the world that are completely accessible. There were 1,100 on it, and that's rising. And I think that is competition, because if other organisations and other hotel chains aren't meeting the needs of people with disabilities, they will go somewhere else, and that has a snowball effect as well with the positive marketing. Publicity should drive people. You know, I've been working a little bit with the University of Hull, purely off the back of a student I saw on Look North. He couldn't get in any of the lecture theatres, and she'd gone straight to the local news and spoke about this, and it was hugely negative publicity for Hull University. And that, I think, you only need, as much as you can sail along and never have an incident, if you have something that occurs in your hotel or somebody feels that there's been discrimination, if they go straight to the press with that, look, here's a photo, this is what happened to me, that the negative impact of that on the business and how fast that can spread on social media is quite astonishing. There's also sites like disabledholidays.com, accessibleholidays.org.uk. It's all increased marketing opportunities, and it shows a really positive side to your business as well if you're pushing on sites like that. And there's also the Bespoke Access Awards. This is something I think came in sort of 2018, possibly a bit before. And it's working with architects and designers specifically within the hotel and hospitality industry. And it's awards for those hotels that are designing and caring for disabled guests, and it's really thinking outside the box. And again, if you have a look at the Bespoke Access Awards and have a look at some of the photos online, I could possibly share a link with you after this. Some of the rooms are absolutely stunning. They look absolutely beautiful, but they're completely accessible. And just the innovative ways and the technology that's gone into those rooms to make sure that, you know, if you visit a hotel, that should be a fantastic experience. You shouldn't get in your room to realise that you can't bathe yourself, you can't hang your clothes up, you can't make a cup of tea, you can't wheel up the dressing table, and that the whole scenario is just a nightmare, because that's not how it should be. You should be on holiday, you should be having a fantastic time. It's, you know, it's just a basic pleasure for people to be able to enjoy the environment they're in. So what can you do to be more inclusive? Well, adapted rooms, you know, consider all of the disabilities that we've discussed. Again, there's a fantastic website that looks at all the different technology that's available within the hospitality industry, you know, sort of hearing loops, where even down to the height of your switches, sensors in rooms for the lights to come on, equal opportunities throughout your facility. So if it's great if you've got some accessible rooms, but then if your spa or your gym or your other facilities within your organisation or your toilets aren't accessible, then as a whole, you're not. So make sure that that expands right through the sort of communal spaces. Can people get round restaurants, receptions, and everywhere else? Well-signed communal spaces. We say that wayfinding is absolutely vital. If somebody, particularly with a cognitive impairment or somebody with a learning disability, comes into an environment and they can't instantly see where they need to go, sometimes if you walk in a reception and there's no signage and no wayfinding, it can create an awful lot of anxiety. And then someone will need to go to reception to ask, which in itself is potentially making them feel discriminated against because they can't just look where they need to be and get there. So wayfinding is really important. Is your website navigable? You know, there's easy read formats. You can navigate lots of websites by the keypad. The color contrasting for people with visual impairments on your website. It's really good to have your website looked at to make sure that it can be navigated by people with disabilities and impairments. Do you have an accessible booking system? Is it easily understood? Map out your accessible rooms and say, make the hotel easy to navigate. Train your staff well, create an inclusive culture and nominate a champion. If at the moment accessibility isn't something you've ever thought about, then perhaps think, right, I know who's perfect for that, and maybe get them just to visit a few other establishments, have a look at what positive changes you could make and nominate them as a champion to make improvements within your organization. And you know, that can create a really inclusive culture. Think about how you offer your services. How do people visit your site? How do you present information about the services that you offer? Providing an accessibility guide, perhaps think about some documentation in what we call a more easy read format for people with a range of hidden impairments. And also if you employ anybody, and I think that's important under the Act, that as a service provider, the Act puts an obligation on you to anticipate the need of disabled people. As an employer, that need is not anticipatory. You don't need to make those changes until you employ somebody with a disability. But it's still really good to be open-minded when you go out for job adverts to think, actually, we may employ somebody with a disability. And have we got flexible working or the means to adapt what we do to employ somebody with a disability? Because that's also a really positive thing to do. The actual physical features. When we look at things, we say, could you remove that? If there's a real barrier to somebody with a disability, could we remove it? Could we alter it? Could we avoid it? And looking at the physical features, think about, do you have any accessible parking provision? Is there a dropped curb from that to get into your hotel? Just try and think about your journey visiting your establishment as somebody that can't manage as ably as you or I can, and how would they, from getting out of their car, how would they fully appreciate that experience, and would they be able to fully appreciate the services that you offer? Vertical and horizontal circulation. Do you have a lift? Do you have a passenger lift? Do you have just stairs? Are there areas that aren't accessible at all to somebody if they were in a wheelchair? We talk about colour and tonal contrast. Decorating carpets in hotels and restaurants drive me bonkers, because they're often, particularly for someone with a visual impairment, can often look like there's steps when there isn't. If they're quite a mad pattern on the carpet, quite a geometric pattern in bright colours, can be quite, when you're doing sort of new decorative and interior design schemes, it's really good to get an access consultant involved just to have a think about, actually, some people only see in black and white, some people see. It can make a huge difference to how the spaces are perceived and how somebody places themselves within a space if there's colour. And again, if you have a fire door or doors to toilets, if they're tonally contrast to the wall around them, someone within a visual impairment can find that door. And these are the sort of things that we often don't even think about if it's not something that you personally suffer from. Your sanitary provision. There's a lot of issues, not going to talk about it today, it's too controversial, but in new hotels and shopping centres and things, there's a lot going on at the moment about gender neutrality and what we should be providing. But physical features, the need for reasonable adjustments under the Equalities Act at the moment only really applies to the disability aspect. Other protected characteristics, there isn't an obligation to make changes. There is less impact, but with the likes of religion as well, there are cases where we should be thinking about separate areas for prayer, but generally there isn't an obligation under the Act for physical adjustment aside from the disability protected characteristic. Think about acoustics. If you've got lots of metal furniture on a hard floor and you get people with hearing impairments, and again, adults with learning disabilities, that vibration and that very, very, poor acoustics in those environments can be really quite stressful, and can mean particularly people with hearing impairments can find having a conversation quite difficult, and they may not revisit. Switches and controls, are they a suitable height if they're in an area with somebody in a wheelchair? Communication systems, fire alarms, that's another thing, vibrating pillows, lighting systems to alert people to danger that we often don't think about, assistive technology, I say sensors for lights coming on, all sorts of things that you can create beautiful spaces with new technology. What if it goes wrong? I love this I always find this nice picture of this ramp here, which I just find beautiful. What does the Equalities Act prohibit? So we've said it prohibits people from feeling harassed, victimised or discriminated against. The Act itself is not policed. Within new buildings, or if you did an extension or extensive refurbishment that required building control or planning, then that would drive you bringing that up to the newest standards. But generally, this is civil rights legislation acted by the individual that would feel harassed or victimised against. The county court, there's employment tribunal, there's the negative publicity. There's so much to this. If somebody came to an establishment and felt harassed, victimised or discriminated against, the routes they could go down and where that could lead, and the financial and reputational cost for business can be significant. And that's me. So if you want to learn more about accessibility or feel inspired by any of this to improve your business, I say we personally can assist and just have a chat, or provide you with more information of helpful websites to go to look at different technologies, different ideas. And there's some really good initiatives out there at the moment for hospitality venues, different organisations trying to come together to create one-stop shops, really, where people with disabilities and impairments can go to find out, like the Visit England schemes. So if there's anything you want to learn any more about, or you feel off the back of this, wowzers, we could do something really positive here, then by all means give us a ring for a chat. And thank you very, very much for listening.
Sarah?
Yes.
I do food allergy training, food allergy awareness, and one of the things that many hotels struggle with is the space that they have for food allergies. And I'm aware it's not a disability, it's not counted, but is it something you'd ever think about when planning for a new build for a kitchen, to make people aware that not necessarily to have a big, huge area for allergens, but how to plan in a way to be inclusive for those people with food allergies and intolerances?
It's something that needs to be considered, yes, in new developments, definitely, and particularly, and I can't remember the girl's name at the moment, but the recent case, I think it was Pret a Manger, where there have been some very tragic outcomes. And this is only going to get bigger, the food allergy side of it. For us, particularly, I say under the Act, it's not something that needs to be considered. And for me, as an access consultant, it's not something historically I've had to consider or get involved with. But yes, definitely in new builds, I think it's very important that consideration is made, that you have a clean area effectively that is separate, almost a sub kitchen or a utility area that can be, as much as you could guarantee, free of certain allergens. And I think that's really important.
I think it's about the planning as well, even if you're refurbishing a kitchen, so the where fires are situated and where certain areas are situated. So again, it's not necessarily always having a separate area, but having an area that can be designated and
laid out. Very much so.
To be avoided. Yeah.
And that's something for me as well. And that's why I love doing these events, because that's something for me has not been brought up to me before, but actually it's something I can learn more about. A lot of the work I do, we do what we call access audits. And I do that I've just done quite a lot of work for Culture Coventry, the Herbert Art Gallery and the Transport Museum. And those audits look at a whole building from the moment you arrive, and it assesses every element of the building and advises on how you can improve. And then if you want, we can support with further work, design. And so for me, that's something else for me to read upon and consider as well, because it's another factor that I can bring into those audits. So thank you for that question. That's really valuable.
be really good to have a conversation afterwards, actually, if that's okay, because I've got some.
Yeah, of course. If you look for me on LinkedIn, or if Robin shares my details in a follow-up email or something, please, any of you, do feel free to get in touch with me. You know, this is something I'm passionate about, and I'm happy to just have a conversation with any of you about any topic, you know, sort of surrounding what I've discussed.
Thank you.
No problem.
Sarah?
Yes.
Do you think hotels being honest about not being accessible is a positive, if they found it positive? For example, I worked for a company that had one of these big old Victorian buildings. It was absolutely impossible to make it accessible. They couldn't put lifts in, they couldn't even put ramps in a lot of it because of thing. Do they find it positive when they actually go to a site and it says, I'm sorry, but we just...
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things actually that I put on one of my slides and never got round to coming out with it. But it is, for me, when I say talk about websites being accessible as well, the other thing for me on your website is to share what you are and what you aren't. And that is equally as important. So if you've got certain areas that are accessible, and often on websites, it's really useful to have a separate tab. Lots of websites have a separate drop-down tab, accessibility, even just to say, look, personally, our venue doesn't have any parking. There's a bus stop here. There's drop paving to the building. But when you get here, we've only got one lounge, or if you're all singing or dancing accessible, put that on there too. And I think, like you say, it's just as important to say what you're not, because putting an expectation there or leaving people to guess is worse. And I think the biggest thing I find as well, particularly when we talk about the non-physical impairments, if people can plan, they get less anxious, particularly with learning disabilities and cognitive impairments and dementia and things. People wanting to make a visit, if they can plan and they know exactly what's there, that reduces the anxiety for them and helps them to keep independence. So it's really important to be honest about what you're offering.
Okay, anybody else got any questions?
I've not even looked in the chat yet. I'm really sorry. Well, if there is, I say I'm quite happy. If I'm bombarded by emails after this, that doesn't bother me at all. I'm quite happy to ask.
No questions in the chat. Barry mentioning he also was with a grade 1 listed Victorian country house, but these old
it's not always possible, and this is where we say what is reasonable and practicable. And at the end of the day, it's drilling into your own personal environment and determining what is reasonable and practicable.
Yeah, I endorse exactly what you said there, Sarah and Robin. When I first arrived at that property, they used to try and avoid the topic of accessibility and mobility. I adopted a completely transparent approach where we just say to people up front, look, this is the nature. We don't have lifts to all floors, lots and lots of stairs, and let the guest make the choice if it wasn't suitable for them. We actually found that approach gained us a fair bit of positive PR as opposed to the complaints that it used to go.
Very much so, very much so.
Sarah, are there any grants available? Are there any grants available for disability improvements or?
There was, but I'm not sure. There was something for retail, but I'm not sure within hospitality, but it's something I can look into. There definitely is with regards to social housing and for landlords and private homeowners. But for hospitality specific grants is not something I'm aware of. That's not to say that there isn't, but it's certainly something I can look into and share if I find anything positive.
Okay, I mean, it's you know, a lot of these alterations are very costly to the business, and you know, and as a business, you have to look at it on a rate of return.
You do,
you know, so it is a commercial decision, and you've highlighted there are many other disabilities rather than just wheelchair access and disabled toilets. There's lots of other things you can do, and I think that's, you know, it's great if you can, you know, if businesses can do them, but some kind of incentive from the government on grant scheme, I think would greatly improve the ability to install these things.
It would be, and I think, and this is the thing, a lot of people are surprised off the back of an audit, that there are a lot of small tweaks that can be made. Not everything is the physical changes. I say it's also just looking at maybe how you deliver a service. If you've got a retail area, how is that laid out? There are some things that have lower costs, and I say often it's really good for businesses to have an access statement or an access policy that looks at where you're taking your business over the coming years. And sometimes if you've got an access strategy, if something happened and there was a claim, but you'd got a strategy in place that the next time we refurbish, we know we're going to look at the colour schemes, we're going to look at perhaps adding a ramp. And if you've got that projection and that plan there, it's almost like you can say, yes, all right, we know at the moment there are some issues and we're very sorry that this person, you know, has felt how they feel. However, if you look at our plan, we're planning to make really positive steps. Because it's not policed as such until such point that obviously something happens. I think there are other really positive, if you perhaps think about, well, actually, we don't have a strategy in place, but this is something we could look at and put plans in place about how we can make those changes going forward. So you're incorporating those changes with other improvements and refurbishments you'd already be doing. So it's being canny about it as well, and not thinking, oh my God, we've got to do all this tomorrow, because that's never going to be the case and nobody would expect it to be so.
Andy, one of the routes where there is a bit of limited funding available, from my own experience of having a formally listed property that I managed, I'd really encourage, if you find yourself in that situation, engage with the likes of English Heritage or the other appropriate.
They're brilliant, English Heritage.
When I built a relationship with English Heritage, they were very helpful in terms of advice and guidance, and we were also looking at some grant funding, particularly in the field of if you were preserving or protecting a heritage building. They do have, albeit limited, and it's probably more limited now than it was 4 or 5 years ago, but there's a bit of money available. I think we tend to shy away from engaging with people like the heritage authorities for fear of being forced to make changes and adaptations. I'd actually encourage you, if you've got a heritage building, talk to your local authority, talk to people like English Heritage, the versions in Scotland and Wales, because they'll actually help you.
They will. That's a really positive point, Barry, actually, really. But they will always help you. And as will, if you're doing an extension or any sort of new build aspect, building control, if you're in a conservation area, again, if you talk to them, like you say, I think there's a perception that there's going to be an instant negativity or you have to, and that's very, very far from the case. And I found not with hospitality, but with other sectors, English Heritage have been fantastic.
Yeah, it can actually be counterproductive if you don't have a positive relationship with them. They can, in terms of planning and in terms of approvals, they can become quite a thorn in your side. If you've got a positive relationship with them, they're
very much so
really helpful and supportive.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I noticed
everybody.
Early,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah. I noticed Barry earlier has popped in a link to Scottish Government new 104 million support fund for hospitality. So I'll be sharing the chat afterwards anyway. I'll pop that into the actual email as well. A little apology really, because I've had a few gremlins in my emails for sending out links. This time I've not been on top form, as it were. Just a little note, the link's always the same. I think Andrew's figured that one out, because Andy Mackay's figured that one out, I think, because he didn't get the email, but he's managed to join us. So yeah, the link will always be the same. So if for ever reason you can't find it, look back to a previous meeting and it'll be the same link. So always good to know. And well, that's it from 2020. Let's hope 2021 is a lot better. And I hope you all have a great Christmas. And in the new year, we've got Peter Ducker from the Institute of Hospitality and Jan giving us a presentation. So looking forward to both of those, and hope you all have a great seasonal break.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Thanks for organising, and Merry Christmas all. Have a good New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Maybe better.
Christmas, everyone. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, Robin. Hope you have a great Christmas. See
And
again
you.
next- Not too bad. Coping here. Not as bad as you. Not locked down.
Lucky for you. Good Christmas.
Have a great time. Bye.
Bye.